Welcome to this lecture. So today in this lecture we are starting with probability. The word probability is quite familiar to everyone. Without knowing the actual thing, we are using it day by day. Many a time we come across the statement like, there is a bright chance for Indian cricket team to win this World Cup today. So these are the things we are possibly, it may happen, what we think like this may happen, that may happen, or it may rain today. So all these things come under the term probability. How do I say this? So to explain clearly, the word chance, possible, probably, likely and etc. convey us some sense of uncertainty about the occurrence of some events. So what does uncertainty means? Uncertainty means it is not like it will happen today, but there is a chance that it will happen. So those things we call it as uncertain. And these uncertainty, we need some types of measurement to this uncertainty. There is something you should always believe with intuition. So this probability is nothing but your intuition. So to measure this intuition or to measure this uncertainty, we turn up to a branch of mathematics called as probability. So this could be a brief explanation about probability. And before we study the theory of probability, we need to learn some basic definitions, terms which we will be using frequently. And these words, chance, possibly, probably, likely to happen, or all the terms of probability. In your questions, these are the few things that might be asked. Without further explanation, we'll go to definitions. We need to learn three basic definitions and very important definitions: experiment, sample space and events. So experiment is something that you test. So there are two types of experiment. One is deterministic experiment and other is random experiment. And the outcome of the experiment is always recorded as sample space. And from the sample space, you pick up an event. You pick up something that you particularly need. That is what we call as event. Simple, composite, mutually exclusive, mutually exhaustive, equally likely and impossible are the types of event. So I'll be explaining each and everything one by one. And these are all the terms that we'll be using throughout this session. So this is the first video of probability. In the next upcoming videos, I'll be explaining with the problems, each and everything that I explain in this video. Now we'll go to the first definition, experiment. So this concept of probability, I forgot to say, why do we learn this? Finance and accounting students, why do we think about the future forecast? So have you ever thought this question in your mind? So this concept of probability is very much needed in finance and accounting. So it helps in financial forecasting, which you need to develop and expertise at an advanced stage of this chartered accountancy course. So that is the reason you are learning this probability. So this will help you to understand the likelihood of occurrence and non-occurrence of a variable. The variable might be the supply and demand curve. With the supply you have to estimate the demand or all those things. We'll go to the explanations of definition. Now this experiment is of two types, I said. One is deterministic and another is random. Now an experiment whose outcomes can be predicted with certain under identical condition. So the outcomes are predicted certainly. This will happen, okay? This is the thing that is gonna happen that you know, but under certain condition. With this given condition, this will happen for sure. This experiment is called as deterministic experiment. The result of this experiment is predictable with certainty and is known prior to its conduct. You know this result before you are doing that experiment. So for example, when you conduct an experiment to verify the Newton's law of action, you know Newton's third law states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Either you conduct the experiment or not, that is the truth. So these type of experiment is deterministic. On the other hand, the random experiment. The experiment whose all the outcomes are known. You know everything, but it is impossible to predict the outcome which you will want. That outcome you cannot be predicting. So in the deterministic experiment, you can predict only this will happen. But in random experiment, you know what and all the things will happen, but you cannot say which will happen exactly. So for example, a fair coin is tossed. What will happen? If I toss a coin, either head or tail, there's no other, nothing that is gonna happen. You cannot say which will happen, either head or tail. Now we'll see the sample space. Set of all the possible outcomes of an experiment. So you do an experiment, you need some method of recording that experiment, right? So what you record the experiment, that is what the sample space. For example, when I toss a coin, what will be my sample space? Tail and head. I may get tail or I may get head. Now I record this as a sample space. This sample space consists of all the things that happens or likely to happen. So for example, sample space of tossed coin will be tail and head. Both the things will happen, but I don't know certainly which will happen. So that is why we call it as random experiment. In the further and upcoming problems, we will be dealing only with the random experiment. We are not going to touch anything about the deterministic experiment, and we need not to worry about that. So a random experiment, you know the outcomes and you don't know which will come exactly. So you record the outcomes as a sample space. Now event. Event is nothing but the question they ask you. I think this may be a easier explanation for you, because in the sample space I'll write what and all the things that happened. Now event, for example, consider a simple event. A simple event is nothing but an event which cannot be decomposed further. That is, you cannot derive some more happenings after that. That is what we call a simple event. It is a very simple thing, so we call it a simple event. So for example, when you toss a coin, tail and head, you cannot do anything more than this, right? That is simple event. Composite event means you can decompose it further into 2 or 3 events. For the same example, I say again, you toss a coin twice, you have 4 more events extra. Okay. Now mutually exclusive. See, clearly take it to your mind. Mutually exclusive. Split the word again and consider this definition what I say. So these events cannot occur at a time. Okay. The event that cannot occur at the time. 2 events that cannot occur simultaneously. I call it as mutually exclusive. Now mutually exhaustive. Exhaustive means other than this, nothing will happen. When you toss a coin, either you will get head or you will get tail. There is nothing gonna happen other than this. That is what mutually exhaustive. And the mutually exclusive means when you toss a coin, you get either the head or the tail, and you cannot get both the things at a time. You are clear with this mutually exclusive and exhaustive? So that we will move to the next one, equally likely. So none of them is expected to occur in preference to the other. Now the same example coin, if I toss the coin, I cannot say you that I will get 5 times head and 2 times tail. You cannot say. It may happen to have 2 times head, 2 times tail. But I don't know. So that is equally likely. Both the things can happen at a time. Okay. Now the tossing the coin, that is the great example I consider with this all those events. You can recall what I have said previous. The same thing, the tossing the coin twice. When you write the sample space, what you will get? Head, 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 tail, tail, head and tail, tail. This is the sample space for tossing the coin twice. So in case of composite event, what will happen? You can again split it into head and tail. But in simple event, you cannot split more than that, right? So this example will suit for each and every example, every event that I have explained earlier. When I do the problem, I can explain you still more clear. Okay. Now the probability of an event to occur. This is the one and only formula that you have in probability. So I am not talking about conditional probability or random probability. This is the basic and the main formula of probability. Probability of an event to occur is the ratio of favorable outcomes to the total events. This is the probability of an event. So in the next video, I will explain all these things again with the examples. Keep watching. Thank you.